Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and welcome to part 1 of my buying Lego parts tutorial, which compares the Pick a Brick service and the Bricks and Pieces service, both offered by Lego. Now, as many of you will know, I do a lot of brick haul videos with regard to all the bricks that I buy in order to feed the development of my city, Brick Nottingham. And as a result, I get a lot of questions on how I go about buying my Lego pieces for the best price and how I find the good variety and what to search for and all the rest of it. So what I thought I would do is make a couple of tutorials, of which this is the first one. And this is comparing the two services offered by the Lego group themselves, which are Pick a Brick, which seems to be quite well known, and Lego Bricks and Pieces, which is a bit harder to find, but quite frankly is a lot better. So I suggest we make a start with the first of those, Pick a Brick. So the Pick a Brick service is accessed via the normal Lego Shop at Home website, and you just do Shop By in the top, then Bricks, and then select Pick a Brick. And the first thing that might strike you is the relatively limited number of bricks available, 1,422. Now that may seem like a lot to start with, but if we just say look at all the 1x2 bricks, you'll see that just the different colour variations of those represent 29 of those 1,422 bricks already. So by the time you've added all of the different colour variations of all the common bricks, that number of 1,422 represents not much variety at all. And by the time we get to some more specific pieces, let's just say I wanted a 1x3 inverted slope, then that would only be available in brown, white and dark grey. And if we did say a 2x10 plate, then that's only available in 6 colours. So if I wanted a blue 2x10 plate, I'd be out of luck with this service. Now you can browse through all of the pieces available on this service relatively easily, but because they limit the view to only 12 per page, you'll have to go through 119 different pages just to see them all. So using some of the filters is a great way to speed you up, but you do have to know what you want. One way of doing that is by searching by colour, and you'll have to be aware that they do use the official Lego terms for the colours, which is a bit different from elsewhere on the internet. So for example, dark stone grey is dark bluish grey, medium stone grey is light bluish grey, and brick yellow is tan. So it may slow you down a little bit at first, just learning all of those. You can also search by category as well, though some of these aren't particularly helpful or common with other services like Bricklink. For example, if I select plates, this will also include some tiles as well. Now this is when another of the drawbacks of this service comes in. If I wanted to add some of these tiles, you might expect them to be exactly the same price as on the sister service, Bricks and Pieces, but that isn't the case. These tiles, for example, at 1x4s are 12 pence per piece here, but are actually 10 pence per piece on the Bricks and Pieces service, and that's similar for a lot of pieces. The 1x1 plate here is 6 pence per piece, and it's 4 pence on the other service. Now, that's not true of all things, so you can actually get the 2x2 tile, for example, at the same price, 7 pence on both services. But if you're going to be buying in quantity, it definitely is worth comparing the two prices, just so you get the best value for money. Now, another difference between the two sites is the maximum here, if I was just trying to add an absolute load, is 999 pieces of each type. And that might appear at first as a benefit, because the maximum on Bricks and Pieces is only 200. But by the time you've factored in that price differential, it might actually be cheaper to make several orders at 200 maximum pieces per time than do one order here for a bigger number at a higher price. Though there is one benefit of using this site, and that's if you did press back in your browser and then go back to it, all of your pieces will still be in your bag. As we see later, when you use the Bricks and Pieces, the most frustrating thing of all, especially when working on a PC, is that if you go back, you will you will find that your basket has emptied in your absence, and you'll have to start all over again. And that alone takes a while to get used to, in my opinion. So at this point, you might be wondering why on earth you'd ever use this service over bricks and pieces, given that it's generally more expensive, and it's definitely got a much worse variety of pieces available. It doesn't seem like it's ever the place to go. Well, there's a couple of reasons why you might want to go here, and that's because this expenditure does qualify for VIP points, which means effectively that you get 5% off them, 10% off when we're on double VIPs like we are at the moment. They also qualify, this expenditure, for Lego's free gifts with certain amounts of purchase. So if you were to put in, say, £100 worth of pick-a-brick pieces into your basket, you would qualify for the free gifts. And that's where it can be even more useful. If, for example, you've got £50 worth of product in your basket, but you need 55 to qualify for a free gift, then you can just top up with £5 of random pieces, tiles you might need, individual bricks, just to take you over that level, and you'll still qualify for the free postage and packing, but you'll also then qualify for that free gift. And that's when I use it quite often, when you're just a frustrating number of pounds off qualification. So in summary, Pick-a-Brick is good because you can get VIP points. It counts as qualifying spend for free gifts with purchase. It can be added to an ordinary shop-at-home order just to top it up over a certain amount or to make use of its free postage. It can be the cheapest price for new parts from Lego, but often isn't. And you can get 999 maximum quantity of any one part in one go. However, on the other side of it, it is a poor choice of parts. It is a poor choice of colours, as we saw with some of the specific parts we looked at earlier, and usually it just isn't the best price. So I think we should take a more thorough look at Lego Bricks and Pieces, which is a much better service. Now, I'm not quite sure why Lego hide the Bricks and Pieces service in the way that they do. I don't know if they're just not keen on having too much volume through it or what, but basically it's in a very unintuitive place, and you have to go to support and then to replacement bricks. And then you would get two options that you might expect to see there, to report missing bricks or broken bricks from a set that you bought. But then there is a third option, which is to buy replacement bricks. So you click on that, and then you select your country, and then you're presented with these two menu boxes. Now, the first of these menu boxes is pretty self-explanatory in that it wants a set number. So if you had a set, say 60266 for the Ocean Explorer ship set that was recently released, and then you'd find all of the bricks that were available for that set, including some printed computer screens and all sorts of other stuff. And then in the second box, you can type in either a product number, which would be a 4 or 5 digit number usually, such as 3003 for a 2x2 brick, and there are all of the different colours of 2x2 brick that are available, for example. Or you can type in an element number, and that's usually 7 or 8 digits long, and I know, for example, that 300321 is a 2x2 red brick, and that's the difference between those two codes, the product code and the element code. It's a bit confusing, but the product code, the shorter number, is for a type of brick, and that's probably how most of us think about Lego, types of brick and then loads of different colours. But if you pick an actual element number, that's the longer number, then it's one very specific brick, i.e. a red 2x2, and not a black one or a brown one. Now that does mean that this whole service is very difficult to kind of browse. You need to really know what you're looking for. I mean, you need to know exactly what piece you want to look for if you're typing something in this box. And here, obviously, you're only limited to the pieces that are in a particular set. So you can't just have a casual browse and say, look at all the new pieces or all of the white pieces or all of the slope pieces or something like that very easily. Now, before we get on to how best to browse this site and get around those shortcomings, it's worthwhile just talking briefly about what this site has on it and what it doesn't have on it. Clearly, it has a vast array of pieces that are available, And that's essentially all of the bricks that are currently in production by the Lego Group. Now, there are some limitations to that. For example, there are no sticker sheets available through this service, and therefore, obviously, there's no stickered pieces as a result of that. As we just saw, there are printed pieces like computer screens and signs and so on, where they are on printed bricks, like in junior sets and more expensive sets and so on. There are no licensed parts, and what I mean by that is that there's no Batman bits or Harry Potter bits or Star Wars bits, anywhere where the Lego Group doesn't own the copyright to the material itself. You won't find any parts for that. So you can search a Batman set by all means, but what you'll find is that all the normal bricks are there, and all the ones with the Bat logo on, or Batman's cowl, or Batman's torso, for example, just won't be there. And that's why often on somewhere like eBay, you'll see a lot of licensed sets for sale without their minifigures. And that's because minifigure collectors can't come on here just for the minifigures, so they have to buy the whole box set and sell the elements like the Batmobiles and the bikes and the boats that they don't need to fulfill their collection. Although, having said that, you can get all of the minifigures that are available for brands that the Lego Group does own. So if we, for example, were to look at one of the more recent Monkey King sets, and this one is the Demon Bull King, then you'll see that, say, for Princess Ironfan, we can get her bottom half, her top half, her head, her hairpiece, and I think we need some shoulder pads as well. Now they're out of stock, so I'll come on to that, but they're worth 13 pence in the UK. So you can see that all of those elements are now in my basket. And with the 13p for the shoulder pads added on to that, we get to a total of £4.07. Now we have to factor in the flat rate postage of £2 into our entire order, but that will be spread over many things that we're buying. And £4.07 is a lot cheaper than those figures would be available individually on a site like eBay. And essentially all those sellers have done is gone on here and bought a load of these figures for £4.07, and are now selling them for things like £11.99. So you can avoid them, and you know they've done that rather than splitting a set, because you'll notice that the sort of flag piece on her staff isn't available for those auctions, and that's because that piece isn't available, much like sails on an old ship aren't available via this site. So yeah, there's a good lesson for you to get non-licensed minifigures much more cheaply than in the secondary eBay market. There are also no series minifigure parts on this site, even though Lego owns the IP on that. Basically, they don't do that because they want to keep the element of collectability live, I suppose. So you can't come on here and get any missing Series 20 minifigure parts. They also don't include any older parts that aren't currently in print. So if I wanted to do something like add load of train doors to all of my trains, and I wanted to search on here for the old style train door, then I would see that when I look at the left train door, there are only 4 that have relatively recently been in print, but they're out of stock. And that probably means that they aren't going to be in stock next week either, quite frankly. And the only one that is in stock is this black one. And that's because it's been used on a few recent sets, including the Ghost Train Express 70424 from the hidden side. So although Lego once made this door in, say, white, I couldn't buy a load of them to make my fast passenger train have doors all the way down, just because Lego aren't currently making them, and they're not going to start making them just for little old me. Now, while we're talking about things that are out of stock, it is worthwhile mentioning that some parts, although out of stock, are going to come back. And I think a good example of that is in our Ocean Explorer ship set, because some parts will just be very popular and they've literally just run out of stock. So I know, for example, because I've bought it myself, that this Stingray, which is a very desirable piece in this set, is out of stock. And it's just going to be a matter of them doing another production run, and then it will be back in stock. So it's just a matter of checking back at a later date. Now, it's a bit frustrating that parts that are never going to be in stock are called out of stock. and parts that are only temporary out of stock are marked out of stock as well, because you really can't tell the difference. But a bit of experience will tell you what's going to come back and what's not. And it's generally because of one of the rules I've said already, that if it's licensed, it's never coming back. And if it's just something like this, that's just a very popular piece, it's probably just out of stock temporarily. Okay, let's now look at how we know what we want to buy. Oh, but just before I do that, I want to bring your attention to a really bad feature of this site, that if I go back in my browser by pressing the back button and then go forward in again to buy more bricks, it'll ask me what my country is again, and you'll see that my basket is now empty, really annoyingly. So I would have to go back and add that Princess Anne fan again and do that piece by piece to put it back into my basket. So you always have to use this back button to go backwards to the menu rather than the back key on your browser, and that does take a lot of getting used to, and I've had some very frustrating sessions where I've lost a very full and detailed basket. Right, so how do we know what we want to buy? Well, there is no way that I can tell you what interests you or what might be something that you'd want to buy, but there are definitely a certain number of sources that we can use that can help us find pieces on this rather unwieldy interface. So the first one is Lego instructions. Now we've all seen those, and we've probably all noticed the list of all the parts at the back. And if it's a replacement part you're after, for example, or maybe just duplicates of similar pieces because you want more of the same, then you can type in those numbers into this interface as one of the element IDs. And another way is to use the website of brickset.com. The link is in the description, and that's got a wonderful Lego database that we can use in many different ways. The first way of using Brickset's database is to browse and then do it by sets. And then, for example, you could do a list of themes and years. And then we could look at all the 2020 sets, for example, might interest us. And we might want to look at all the city ones, for example. And then you can just go through each of the sets looking for pieces that will interest you. And then if you were collecting animals, for example, you might decide you wanted a bulldog from the tuning workshop, the ray and shark from the ocean exploration ship. You might want the white bulldog from the police station set, and so on. And you could type in all of these set numbers into the set number search box and go and find those pieces. Now, another way you can use the browse function on Brickset is by doing minifigures, and that works pretty much in the same way. So we could do view lists of minifigure categories and years, for example, if that's what we were interested in. We could look at, say, city stuff, or maybe again we'd want to look at stuff that was released in 2020. And if I was ignoring a lot of these because things like Aquaman are going to be licensed and not available and so on, as we discussed earlier, but let's say I was interested in this ATV driver, I could click on him and see what set he appeared in. And he appeared in set 60255, 60255, and here's all his bits. So there's his torso, his mask, his head, and what else do we need? His trousers and his hat. So I think that's all of him in my basket. So it's really quick. A third way we can do this is actually browse by parts. Now, this is really useful, especially for finding brand new parts. Now we can still look at different types of part by looking at categories and so on, but the one that I find really useful is by year. So we could click on 2020, or even by release date, and that would actually split the 2020 into the many different dates that parts have been released over the year. But if we click on 2020, for example, now this is a huge number of parts, so I might want to filter it even more. So I might choose a category and choose system. That's sort of normal Lego basically. And I might choose a color. So let's say I choose, I don't know, white or something like that. Then I can filter it by that and look at all the pieces that are brand new to 2020 that I might not have in my collection. So here's one. Here's the sort of new white ice cream swirl. and I could enter this number, which is the longer one, to find that exact piece in white only. But what I'm going to do is type in 53119, because that is the piece number, and it will show me that piece in all the colours that it's available. And in this case, it's available in white and brown. White seems to be out of stock. I imagine that is just temporarily out of stock. I can't see why that would be limited, unless it was only released as part of a series minifigure, for example. But I can get the brown one, so I can add that to my bag, and I think I have 3 of those. Good, good. Now, there are other ways that we could know about part numbers, and it might be because we've added to a wanted list in Bricklink. But what I'm not going to go through in great detail today is Bricklink and how that works. That's a market for new and used parts from all years, just people selling their collections or people who have bought parts deliberately for resale. But as I say, I'm going to do that as a separate guide, so I'll save all of that information for part 2 of this video. Now, another way you might know exactly what part numbers you want is by designing a build in a digital designer. I use Lego Digital Designer, but there's many to choose from online. But obviously then, having designed something online, you'll know exactly what parts you need, because it tells you, and you can even export a part list with all of the numbers directly from those programs. So that's very useful indeed. So it really is up to you how you use all these databases, all these resources. If you prefer sort of looking at sets and browsing through the pieces within each one, or if you have done all of your design in a different program and know exactly what you're coming for, you can use these 2 very limited boxes to find everything you need. It's just a pity that it's not a bit more user-friendly. Now, another thing, which is a real top tip that not a lot of people know, is that you can even buy base plates and things from this set. So if I type in the item number for a 32 by 32 base plate, you'll see that there are several available. Now, the ones that are out of stock are probably fully out of stock and won't be coming back. But as you can see, you can get dark bluish grey, light bluish grey, white, tan, blue, and dark green, which is Lego's parlance for normal green, as we'd see it. That's the bright green one that's a bit garish that you can get from the normal Lego Shop at Home website. But if you wanted the old green, that I call it, that's more normal and less bright and disgusting, then it is available here. So they call it dark green. You have to be conscious that they do use the official sort of Lego names for colours. So dark green is green, not what we would call dark green. That's called earth green. It's all very confusing. But that's available here for £7.36. It's a bit dear, but at least you can get it. Another example of weird colour names is the tan base plate, which is actually called brick yellow. Even the greys are different. Medium stone grey being light bluish grey, and dark stone grey being dark bluish grey. But yeah, it's worthwhile knowing that you can get all these base plates all year round in quite a diverse set of colours. So in summary, I think you can already see that Bricks and Pieces is a much better service. It's got an unparalleled selection of pieces all in one place. Not necessarily all the pieces that have ever been released, but nonetheless a huge amount. And compared with Pick-a-Brick, they are actually generally a bit cheaper as well. Thirdly, I think the best thing about getting an order in from this place is that they are all shiny and new, which definitely isn't always the case when you get an order from Bricklink. And also another positive is that it's pretty cheap postage, given that it's at a flat rate, which is only £2 in the UK, regardless of the size of your order. It's just a very economical way of doing it. On the negative side, it isn't an easy website to use, really. There is no browse function, and you really have to know what you want, or spend quite a long time trawling through it. Another bad point is never ever press back on your browser, or you'll lose all your hard work. The colour names can be confusing, unless you're used to the official Lego terms. There are no VIP points for expenditure on bricks and pieces, neither are there any gifts with purchase, so if you want to spend the prerequisite amount and get a free gift, then maybe consider using Pick-a-Brick instead. Also, the maximum number of each piece in each order is 200, so you can get an order with many hundreds of pieces, but only 200 of each one. Now that shouldn't trouble most of us, but if you do want to get a huge number of pieces, again you might want to consider Pick-a-Brick depending on what the prices are. Other minor negatives are that it can take absolutely ages for one of these orders to arrive, and I imagine that's because they're picked by hand. Also, printed and special parts can be very expensive. If you go around picking up all the new minifigures from an entire range, you'll soon find that pound note figure at the bottom adding up very quickly. And I suppose my last negative point would be that buying from bricks and pieces can be very habit forming. And you may be back here before you know it, ordering even more pieces that possibly you don't even need and breaking your wallet. Right, well I do hope you found that guide to Pick-a-Brick and Bricks and Pieces, both services from the LEGO Group, very useful. I've tried to be as thorough as I can in describing all of the positives and the negatives and how I use them to best effect, but do let me know if there's anything I've missed out or if there's anything that you do that I haven't covered. I will be doing a second part to this mini-series on Bricklink, which, as I say, is another marketplace for LEGO pieces, so do look out for that in due course. But for now, thank you very much for watching, it is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. But for now, see you!